Welcome to Real Talk with Tina and Ann. I'm doing a special episode with a really dear friend of mine, Charde Young, also known as Love Freely. That's how I initially knew her because we just struck up a really great friendship from us seeing her on stage. And she kind of struck a really close relationship with my daughter just through eye contact on stage and seeing my daughter standing up front and center. And she just, my daughter just connected with you right away, and I knew that there was something special about you, and you didn't even hesitate to connect with her. And then you came right over to us, and then the relationship continued to the rest of us. And I always call your band like the misfits, it's you guys are a bunch of misfits that get up there and you're real and authentic and you reach people. And I call it hippie church whenever we leave there. It's like, we
It's
just
perfect.
we just got to celebrate, and we were completely inspired. So you guys are just a bunch of people that love to give back.
Pretty much, you nailed it. When you said that to me for the first time, I'm like, oh, you hit the nail on the head. I never knew quite what to coin the band, but that's perfect. It's a bunch of misfits who all came together to spread the light and love. I guess we always wanted to
Yeah.
receive. Yeah.
Well, you guys are absolutely doing that. I mean, when we first came to visit and see your band for the first time, it was because my son is seeing the guitarist in your group. I mean, he's guitarist is my son's guitar teacher, and he just really took to him. And now, I mean, your band is love.
Oh, how about that? Yes. I love that. That is dope. Mikey, the lead singer, would love to hear that too. Because that's pretty much it. That's what we do. We just you have to give what you want, what you wish to receive. And that's ultimately why my name is Love Freely, because I feel like that's what we all are here to do. Like love is
Mhm.
all there is, and we're just making everything else up.
Well,
You
I'll
know.
tell you, every single time that you stand up on that stage, and I've told you this, but this is for our listeners. Every single time that you get up on that stage, you are making a difference in people's lives.
That is beautiful. That's the hope. That's my entire purpose of everything I do is to be of service and hopefully just let people know that they could do it. Like whatever it is, you could do it. If it's on your heart and in your mind, it's already yours. Just get up there and do it, even if you are afraid.
See, that's why we named it this, because we're going
Hmm.
to be talking quite a bit about doing it afraid.
Hmm.
The reason I started this podcast was because I had a story. I had a
Hmm.
story. And so many times I had been told to keep what happened in my home a secret
Yeah,
and not to tell the world what was going on in my life. So I have created my own platforms. And one of the things that I also did was I got a master's degree in helping people.
let's go.
And I became a director of a battered women's shelter and rape crisis hotline. And I held hands with women and children who had been raped or molested at the hospitals. And I worked at the jails. And I also was in journalism. And I wrote for media for 8 years, trying to make a difference in people's lives out
Wow, I didn't know
there
that.
in print. Yes, I actually had a column called
Wow.
Against All Odds. And I would just write from people in the community that either were making a difference or had a need. And I would connect people, got houses for people. We did all kinds of things trying to help people out there. And so, that's my whole entire purpose. That was my purpose for getting my degrees and going in the direction I did with in the helping profession. So, would you say that that's what your goal is up there on stage? Because that's what it feels like.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what it is. I feel like we're doing the same thing. It's just different areas. That's all it is. And I feel like ultimately, I'm hearing some of the things I didn't know about you. Um, I think you just see yourself in me, like because our mission is the same. Like even though I'm just
Yeah.
singing, um, and speaking most of the time, we have the same mission. We want to feed the hearts, minds, and souls of others, and let them know that it's okay not to be okay, and you can get through this. And I'm big on things are happening to you. They're really, that's how we feel it, like this has happened to me, this has happened to me, but a lot of this is happening for you and not necessarily to you. And once we break that barrier to let people know that, hey, you aren't your circumstances, these are things that have just happened around you, but it does not define who you are. So that's a lot of what I want to pour into people. Like, you are worthy, even though this happened to you 20 times over, that doesn't diminish your worth as a human being. So that's
Yeah,
my big thing. Yeah,
it doesn't define you.
there it is.
You
And
know,
it,
I just saw an article about Mariska Hargitay, who was Olivia Benson on SVU. I don't know if you
yeah, I
watch that
love
show,
Olivia.
but
That's my show.
yeah, absolutely. I know.
Yeah,
She's been doing it a long time,
yeah.
and she just came out in an article saying that she had been raped herself 30 years
I
ago,
know,
and
right?
it was something that she really hadn't let people know, but now she is telling her story. But we all know that what her purpose on that show is, which is really amazing that she's been able to pour that hurt into that show.
Yeah,
But her mantra in life, she asks herself this question: what would you do if you weren't scared? And I that really hit me where I live. I got to tell you, I mean, you said, you live afraid, and I do it all the time.
yeah. You have to do those things, if, and that's a good mantra, because if you hide behind the fear, you'll never really realize anything you want. So just do it anyway. Like, a big part of you even knowing who I am is me doing it anyway. It's like I used to have, I guess you call it stage fright, but I would have full fledged anxiety attacks before I would get on stage, like
Um,
hyperventilating, everything. When I first started this 4 years ago, like going out and performing, it was, even though I went to church and I sang in front of thousands of people, it was a different experience being on the stage. I don't know why, because it's innately the same thing. But it would freak me out, and I just did it, and then eventually
yeah.
it got easier, and it just gets easier, and then you realize you really had no real reason to be afraid. So I think
Mhm.
you find everything is found on the other side of fear, so you just have to step your foot in on the other side of it to see that I had no real reason to be afraid anyway.
I say that all the time.
Yeah.
That You said it
Hmm.
every single time, and we've actually done episodes on stopping short of success.
Yeah.
And it's like stopping right before it's going to happen.
Hmm.
And I've done that in my life. And
Me
I've
too.
talked about that on this podcast because when I was 11 years old, my dad, it was one of the most successful in my life,
Hmm.
because I was a really great swimmer, was traveling all over the place. And when I was at a swim meet, my dad died.
Oh my goodness.
And I made that association, this and this. My dad died, success. And every single time I got to the point where I was right on the verge of success, I would stop myself because I associated it with my dad's death every single
Yeah.
time.
I
So,
see.
and then there were other times in my life where that would happen, but I too have been to the point of such a stage fright. And it's really interesting that God has called me to speaking
Hmm.
because I was that kid in the room that was the quietest kid in the room. I'm autistic myself, and what normally shuts down with me, one of the first thing that shuts down with me when I'm nervous is my voice.
Mm.
So when I get up in front of people, and I used to be a preacher in the jails, you know, my heart would be pumping. I would be scared to death. I would be up on stage with all these women in the jail looking at me in the chapel. And I'd be like, you know what? I am scared to death, but I did what you said. I would get up there anyway. One of the best things you said to my daughter, who's 8 years old and scared to death of singing, and she's got a beautiful voice, And she's like, I'm not doing it. And your story to her of explaining to her how afraid you have been doing it, but you get up there and do it anyway, is a mission and a it's something that we're telling her all the time. So hopefully, she will get up there and do that too.
Yeah. You just got to be placed in those situations. I think I hate to say fear, but fear is a good thing. Now I'm seeing it as a good thing because if you're not a little scared of it or it doesn't sound insane, then it's not
Yeah.
really something worth it. And then
Yeah.
once you get to the other side of it, that's when you feel that accomplishment. That's when you feel like, hey, once you do it one time, you know that you can do it a million times over. So if she gets on that one stage, whether it's a school play, it could be 10 people in the room, and she does the thing, the next time the thing comes up, she'll do it because it's like, oh,
Right.
I did it, and it was okay. I made it to the other side. She'll still be a little afraid because it took me almost a year of like singing in venues to just go out there and be okay with being out there. And then it'll take, I noticed it took like 3 or 4 songs in. Now I'm comfortable. But honestly, until I got in Apostle Jones. Apostle Jones is where I really felt free. I've sang with so many people, but once I got in that band, it just felt like it was okay to just be me. And it just made it better for me.
Right. You're in Apostle Jones, which
Hmm.
is a band that was rated like the best in Cleveland or something like that. I
Hmm.
mean,
Yep.
and I attest to that. You
Oh,
guys
thank
are.
you.
And then you have your own band called Mixed Feelings.
Yes. So
And
that's me,
then
my sister. Yeah.
oh, is Honey your sister?
Well, she's not my real sister, but we call each other sister. So
Okay.
yeah, Honey's also in Apostle Jones, and her and I created Mixed Feelings in 2019 before we got into Apostle Jones. I think we joined Apostle Jones in 2021. Yeah.
Okay. All
Hmm.
right. And then you also do a side band
Yeah.
with, what band is that again?
It's so much. So a new vibe is also three best friends. So me, Honey, and Journey Blue. A new vibe is more spoken word, hip hop, neo soul. So I have two of my own bands, and then I sing with Apostle Jones, and then I sing background with Tropidelic now, and then so many other people. So we basically background singers for different entities.
Which you and I have had this discussion
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
you could actually be at the forefront by yourself. You don't need to be somebody's background singer. I mean, if that's where you're comfortable and that's where you want to be, but it's just I've seen you and I've recorded you singing and it's just so beautiful. You're angelic when you sing,
Oh.
and I guarantee if you went on The Voice, you would get a 4-chair turn.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot because that's a lot of my fear. So to hear you say that, and honestly, the last few months I've been hearing that, and I think it's a lot of God calling me out because I like to hide myself. It's like, okay, I've gotten comfortable with this, but I've always felt like I wasn't good enough to sing front. I don't know what that is. I think it's because my voice is different. And so I grew up singing in church, and church has a sound. And I, excuse me, I've never had that sound. My voice is kind of soulful and just different. So I felt kind of, I don't want to say other, because nobody really too much made me feel bad about it. But I've always felt like I didn't have the voice to be up there, even though I can hold down the harmony. I didn't have the look or whatever was needed, whatever I told myself. And I did have a few people say, well, you can't sing. So I think that's a lot in the back of my mind to where it's like I'm more comfortable with having people around me, like they can
Okay.
shield me. But I want to be a solo artist.
Okay.
Like I envision myself doing it, but that's another fear situation. So that's gonna be another thing that I have to just do afraid and see how it works. But to hear people tell me that I can and that I'm capable, it means a lot because that gives me a push. So thank you for that. And that's just, I'm proof that you could be knee deep in success of what people consider to be success in different bands and different entities and still be afraid of certain things, of certain heights. And having a fear of success is a thing too. Like you said, when you get to the top of a mountain, it's like, oh no, because you associated your success with something traumatic. So with me, I'm just afraid, I guess, to be honestly don't know why I'm so afraid in that area. And I guess it's just to be alone and there's no one else there to fall back on, and you'll only hear me. So I don't know what that is. It might be that, but I'm in a season to where that's another fear I'm trying to conquer.
Well, if you like to hide,
Hmm.
if it's just you, you can't hide.
Right. So it's just like, okay, I can't say, all right, honey, sing this part. It would just be me. It would just be me. So I'm thinking it's that, because I've been trying to search my mind as to why is it that I haven't done it if it's something I want to do. And it's another fear, I assume. And then I have people like you. It's like, oh, you could do it. I could see you on The Voice. Like me personally, I could never see me there because all the voices I've seen there, it's like, no, not for me. I don't know why, but I do feel like that.
Well, you remind me of some people that have gone all the way to the finals, so I don't
Oh,
know.
thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. You have no idea. It means a lot. So it's just about me being comfortable within my voice being different, I guess. And then I always tell myself, sometimes you got to if you don't believe in you, believe the things that others are saying. Believe the good. We are so quick to believe in the negative. We attach to the negative things people are saying. Like when
Yeah.
children, you call a child bad, now they just think they're a bad person. But when someone says you're a great person, you can sing very well, we should believe that just as wholeheartedly as we are so quick to believe the negative. So I'm trying to adapt that, adopt that into my life as well.
It's amazing that you have these messages because you're also a teacher and
Mm-hmm.
you are, on the weekends or whenever you do these gigs, you do your music and you're up on stage, but you also during Monday through Friday, you're in the classroom and you're making a difference in children's lives. So, I mean, you have dedicated your life to making a difference.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. And everything I do, I feel wholeheartedly that we're all here to serve. A lot of us have forgotten that, but I think we're here to serve the collective. Like each and every last one of us are in this cosmic dance together, whether we like it or not. So to me, we best get along and love on each other. If I can give to you, you can give to me, and I think it will innately make the world a much better place. If I see there's a need in you, and it could be as simple as saying, "Hey, you look beautiful today." I tell my students that all the time. It's look at the person next to you and just say something nice about them. That can change the trajectory of that person's week, month, year. Just you saying, "I love the way you dress. I love the way you come in with a smile." Because they could be at home getting abused. Anything could be going on. And all they needed to hear was that they look good. They're a good person. You make me happy. So you have no idea what the hello, how are you? That could have made a person's life a world of difference because no one ever asked them how they felt, you know?
We have this thing on the podcast, especially with my guest co-host. We talk all the time. Her
Mm-hmm.
name's Denise Bard. We talk all the time on these 30-second moments and how
Mm-hmm.
you can make a difference in somebody's life for just 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Because she's talked to people that have, as teachers, who have said, but I've got 30 kids in my classroom. I don't have that much time. And she's like, oh, yes, you do. I mean, the things that have made the biggest difference in her life was she didn't have, a really great mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so she had to draw a picture of her and her mom and something that they were doing in school, and she can look back and the teacher just putting her hand on her and smiling, and just those were the kind of things as she looked at her picture, and she was scared to death. What is the teacher going to think, because I'm not putting anything out there like all the other kids. The
Mm-hmm.
teacher's just like, and I feel you, I got you, I understand you. And that's all it took.
That's it.
It doesn't take much.
It does not. And I think we tend to make things harder than they have to be. Just a simple care, like you said, a touch on the shoulder. You can feel we're energetic beings, so you can feel when someone's in a space. You can feel it. So just hey, you can offer a hug, offer a handshake. That alone, that's it. Or just you're doing great at life, but that's it because that person may be thinking they're struggling. You can say you're doing good at this thing called life. That can change them from being in doubt, being bogged down, and say, you know what, I did enough today, and I can move on. And it's
Hmm.
simple things, especially with children. A lot of it is attention based. Our babies like a lot of attention, and so just saying, "Hey, girl, I see you." People just want to be seen. Even adults, people just want to be seen. So just see them and reverence beauty when you see it. It's beauty in everything. It could be something as simple as a curl in someone's hair. I love your curl. Just
Yeah.
reverence it. Just reverencing the beauty you see is huge. I think it was Color Purple where she said
Mm.
you shouldn't walk past the color purple and not smile or something. I'm paraphrasing, but just something simple as the color purple. Just every time you see it, and just saying, God did that, or you shouldn't walk past anything you deem as beautiful and not, represent, speak to it. And it's beauty in everything, even the worst of person. So if you focus more on the light and things, it'll bring more of the light out. So especially the children we deem as bad, I try to
Mm.
make sure I point out the good. You're a great reader. Even though you're causing a ruckus in my class, I point out, hey, you're an awesome reader because they probably always hear I am bad, I am bad, so they're going to just be that. That's what they think they are now.
Well, my son, and you know a little bit about
Hmm.
this because you and I have talked about this. I mean, he's just not going to school because
Yeah.
of how a teacher made him feel.
Hmm.
And it's all about how we feel. And kids and adults, but especially kids, will always remember how you made them feel.
Yep.
So, I mean, now we're looking at other schools and we're trying to figure out how to help him come out of this. And like you said, you have no idea where somebody's been, what's going on in their life, and just a simple smile and letting them know. And that's what you do on stage.
Hmm.
And you do it. I mean, how many people were at that Cleveland concert? Like thousands. I forget what it was, like
Oh
30,
yeah, at the
50,000
30,000 or
or
50
so.
or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, there were so many, and you were on stage, and the things that you were saying, you were so eloquent with your speech that, I guarantee were touching every single person there, making them believe in themselves and knowing that they had purpose.
Yep, and that's major. And that's a huge thing for me. Everywhere I go, I have to say that. And half the time I don't even know what I'm saying. It's just something comes to me and it's like I need to speak to the masses. If I can get a mass amount of people in the room, the first thing I'm going to do is tell them that they are loved because so many people walk around daily and they don't feel it. They don't feel loved, whether it's systematically from their parents, from the school. They feel other. So no matter what you're facing, know that you're loved, know that you're worthy, know that you can get out of it. And every day in every way, we're getting better and better. It's one step at a time. And a lot
Now,
of us, we don't know that.
can you remember the times in your life at growing up? I mean, do you know the people that made that difference in your life and made you feel special?
Honestly, I would say everyone around me mostly. I was the baby girl. I was the first granddaughter, and I was the youngest. So everywhere I went, like from my mom, from my dad, I was being told I was loved. I was being um lifted up. I don't have like a tragic childhood story. I was poured into by my church family. I have a large family in itself where we poured into each other and they poured into me. They all allowed me to just be myself. But like I had cousins, I got to see other people. I learned at a young age to um, have empathy, and I could see
Mhm.
everyone was an experienced love. I had childhood friends, even cousins, and then my mom adopted two children who came from totally different circumstances. Like they never experienced being told I love you. So
Mhm.
they never experienced being a part of a family dynamic. So even as a young child, I would take my allowance and go buy the girl at school some tennis shoes because hers was down and people were picking on her. Or I knew how to braid hair younger, and if somebody's hair was messed up, I'll braid their hair so they can go to school and feel like everyone else. So I've kind
Mm.
of always been of service in that sense, and I couldn't stand bullies, so I was the person who would like defend people from bullying, and that's just carried me throughout my whole life. And then I had, as an adult, experienced things where I was othered. So I did experience situations where I was other, but as a child, my mom, my godparents, they all kind of poured into me love and also accountability and just service. Everybody around me are service workers. My mom's a nurse. My stepdad is he's a retired detective. So everybody around me was kind of at service. So all I know is service. My grandmother fed the community. This is where I came from. But I also got to see other people's struggles. And a lot of people's struggles is that they just haven't experienced the other side, so they don't think that it exists. All they see is pain, so they associate that pain with themselves. So my
Okay.
job to me is to let them know that no, what your mom and dad went through or put you through really had nothing to do with you. It had everything to do with their own personal trauma, and all they were doing was loving you with all the love they had. So you thank them for what they did give you, because to them that was love. That's all they knew, or they were fighting their own demons. So now you go out here and you create your own experience of love or what you needed from them. Because ultimately, anybody in our lives are just giving us all the love that they have. We only know what we know. And then it's up to us to create the lives we want and to surround ourselves with people and information that let us know that we are whole, we are okay, and I could do anything. So that's how I don't know. I don't have most people around me lift me up, and I'm thankful for that. Even in my adulthood, I'm surrounded by people who lift me up, and I think that has a lot to do with attracting the energy that I am.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons that we connected
Mm-hmm.
because we have that same we're like that kindred spirit. We have that same kind of attraction where and I don't want toxic in my life.
No,
And I like to draw really great energy to me. And I felt that about you immediately. And, I've had a different growing up than you did. But what I've done is I've turned all the pain and everything into, giving. And I don't want to focus on the negative part of it. And there's so much healing and so much that we can give to others, even through the pain that we've experienced. And
that's
that's part
true.
of that's what I see with you up there. Even though you have gone through, I had a great growing up, I can still see the pain and the vulnerability with you when you are up there and
Very-
with all the other band members that are up there. One of the things in that Mariska article that I read is that you can be vulnerable and be a badass at the same time. And
Yeah, I love that.
man, I'll tell you, I was just like, that's me,
Yeah, I love that.
and I think that that might be you as well because I kind of catch that with you a little bit.
Yeah, I think my vulnerability makes me a badass. If that's making sense, I think um a lot of us just being vulnerable is simply being you.
Yeah.
And I think once you get to a place where you're you, You're no longer identifying with your parents. You're no longer identifying with the religion you were raised in. You're not identifying with the job title you have. Once you strip or detach yourself from all the things that you do and realize they don't equate to who you are, that makes you vulnerable. And that to me makes you a badass because you have the courage to stand up in the room and just be you. You're not attached to anything else. It's just you shining your light. So I think I see vulnerability as like, yeah, that's confidence. That's badass, especially in the world where we're most people are trying to we wear masks. That's what I tell my children. I do a
Yeah.
mask check, and most people you meet are wearing a mask and trying to be who they think society wants them to be accepted. And then if you take the mask off, on the inside of that mask they're hurt, they're uncomfortable really or confused, and they don't really want to be tied to the person that their mother wants them to be, their father wants them to be, or the person that pain calls them to be. Like they're either strapped in survival mode too. So behind every mask, if you take the mask off, that's the real person, and that's the person that the world needs. That's the person that God or source, whatever you're calling it, sent to earth to make a difference, because we all are here for a purpose. And a lot of us don't know what our purpose is because we're trying to appease the masses of people around us or who we think we're supposed to be. And the only thing you're supposed to be is you. I think that makes you a badass. Just waking up saying, I'm just going to be who I am, and knowing that that is enough.
And being able to connect with people. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't connect with people with all that on there, especially
Yeah.
the masks that we wear. And when we take
Yeah.
those off, we're finally able to connect with other people.
That's true. And then you can connect with people, but they won't be the people you're supposed to connect with. They're going to be associated with that mask you have on. And you'll find yourself in this constant loop of meeting people, hanging out, and realizing you have nothing in common with them. And you're going through this inner turmoil every time you're with these people. Is because these aren't your people. You can't connect on the soul level with anyone if you're pretending. They're connected to the person you're pretending to be. So just completely be yourself, and then you have interactions like the one we had. Like we met organically based upon our energy, you know. And if I was pretending, it wouldn't be, because you'd be like, okay, no, this is not who this person is.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can pick up on that pretty quickly when we know that
Mhm.
somebody is fake. And I
Yeah.
just keep it surface and I move on. I
That's
mean,
it. That's all you could do. And granted, to go back to like my childhood, I want to speak on this because every person you meet has a story. Every person you meet has experienced the feelings of what you felt while you were going through what you were going through. It may not have been abuse, but everyone has felt neglected. Everyone has felt sad. Everyone has felt other at some point. Everyone has felt joy. We've all went through anger. They're human emotions. Now it may appear to be different for others, but it's all the same feeling. So that's the pain you see. I've went through a lot in my life. A lot of it happened more so like when I went to college, like 18 and up. I experienced a lot that would be considered pain and traumatic, to be honest. And it was some things that I had to grow through. And a lot of it came down to just not knowing who I was or what I wanted. That's what caused a lot of pain for me. And it allowed me to attach myself to different people and environments that did not serve me. And
mm,
I went through a lot during that. So what you see on stage is an overcoming, like really just someone who had the courage to just be themselves and not feel like they had to be who their mom wanted them to be, who their church expected her to be. It's just, I am me. This is how I.
you are really speaking the truth when it comes down to being able to translate that pain,
Mhm.
being able to learn from it, being
Yeah.
able to get up there and being able to let other people and draw people in with
Yeah.
it. And, you know, you said something to me, and I can feel this even when you're talking about what you just said. And I don't know if it was you who said this. I am, this is what I got out of, I think it was you that might have said this to me a while ago. I am not confident, but I'm courageous.
That's me. I say that all the time.
And I wrote that down and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, I am going to live by that
Yeah.
because it's that do it afraid that we're talking about. And so
Mm-hmm.
many times I go into even this podcast, everything that I've done that's been new or whatever, and it's the unknown, going into the
Yeah.
unknown. And anytime we grow, we're stepping into the unknown. And
Yep.
we don't feel that confidence when we're always stepping outside of our little box.
Mm-hmm.
And every step that we take, it's that, we're not doing it necessarily with confidence, but we're doing it because, we're courageous.
That's it. That's what a lot of people stop me and they say, I wish I had your confidence. And I'm like, be careful what you wish for. Because if you had my confidence, it'll be a little slim. I'm more courageous than anything. I'm not scared to take a risk. I'm not scared to look crazy, sound crazy. I'm not afraid of like the pushback of taking a risk. Like if I take a risk on something and it doesn't work, I can always go back to doing what I was doing. That's how I look at everything. I
Yeah.
I have mastered survival. So if I take a leap of faith and it doesn't work, I know I'm going to survive. I'm not going to be I know how to take care of myself. So why not take the chance? And it's just courage and that kind of appears to be confidence because you can be courageous and really not be that confident about it and because you like you said it's an unknown territory. It's like I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it because this is what I want to do. And then in the doing, you learn. And in the doing, it gets easier. Just like your podcast. When you first started it, you had to figure it out. Like how you wanted it to look. What
Right.
did you want to talk about? Like how to even get it uploaded to different sites. These are
Yeah.
things you did not know until you did it, you know?
Right. Right.
And now you can just fluidly do it. You know how to follow a script. You know how to find the people you want to speak to. It becomes a flow, but it would have
Right.
never happened if you didn't have the courage to start. So just do the things. Yeah, that's what I tell people. Just do the things and figure it all out on the other side. But as long as you're on this side, nothing's going to get done. That's just
You,
what it is.
one of the other things that has really talked to me is my shame.
Oh my
And,
goodness. Yeah.
being able to feel shame
Hmm.
and allow it to hold you back versus, just pushing forward and turning that shame around and being able to move forward. That's, man.
That shame is taking me out. That's one of my biggest things. Shame will, to me, is like a silent killer because I've had that experience. It was like something I did at 19 that stayed on me until like last year, and I'm about to be 38. And I went to
Wow.
therapy, and it made sense to me. I was beating myself up for nearly 20 years
Yeah.
for something I did when I was a teenager,
Right.
when I didn't even have the mindset to realize that what I was doing was wrong. So I have to first you have to like learn to give yourself grace for the things you didn't know. You know, because what we do is we get to a stage in our life where we, I guess, a point of realization. Like we realize how to be a good person, and then we go back and we nitpick at all the times we weren't, and we carry that like guilt of what we did 20 years ago with us on and on and on. No, just give yourself grace, speak to that child. And I have to go back and say, you were a child, girl. You didn't know. You have to just let that go and move forward. And you don't even realize that it is that shame because it morphs into other things over time. Like I didn't realize that I was holding on to shame until I went to therapy 2 years ago for something I did
Okay.
when I was 19. I had no idea that
Okay.
was causing me to act in certain ways in different areas of my life simply because I was holding on to this shame. I was putting up barriers and holding myself back from things that could and relationships that could have been very successful, but I was ashamed of who I was. And then I had to realize I'm no longer that person. I've been like five different people since then.
And it's allowing yourself to deserve it.
Yes, that's huge.
Because, after my dad passed away, there was so much abuse going on in my house, and my mom
Mm.
my my mom gave my sister, who wasn't really my sister, but my cousin who was living with me as my sister
Hmm.
for several years. And anyway, she was given back into the system and she was lied to. And I was told that I was never allowed to ever tell my sister she was going into the system.
Oh my
When I
goodness.
and it was a really and my sister ended up blaming me for many, many years after that for it happening to her, even though I was only 11 and she was 8. And I owned it. I owned it, and I think that that was one of the reasons why I would stop short of success, and allowing myself to be able to deserve to be able to
Yes.
move forward, to move on from that. So we have to give ourselves permission to move on
Ooh,
away from some things that we have whatever's happened.
I'm adding that. I always say give yourself grace, but you have to give yourself the permission to let that go. Because you were 11.
Yeah.
Just think of that. 11 years old. You
You
were
know,
simply doing what you were told to do.
My oldest son, he's
Hmm.
gonna be 11 coming up, and I look at him and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I was a baby."
Yes,
You
you
know,
were a baby.
I think of myself at that age, and I think that I was like this grown person with all these major responsibilities because I did have a lot of
Probably
responsibility
had
back
them,
then,
yeah.
and and I have allowed so much from my past to be able to affect my decisions today and not
Man.
allow myself to move forward and not allow and I wouldn't give myself the permission to be
Yeah.
okay and to move forward.
You were
So I
basically robbing yourself from joy and happiness. You were
right.
robbing yourself, yeah.
And look at how many of you said 20 years, look at how many of us don't give us permission to be able to move on from something that we did so long ago. And we are completely different people now. And, we're not that person. Or, maybe circumstances just happen the way they do.
Yeah.
And 20 years later, we have to be able to rewrite our story.
There it is. You are the author and finisher of your fate. So, like, I try to look at my life like it's a movie. And I know this sounds crazy to people when I say it. I'm the main character and
Okay.
in
Oh,
my movie. And then there's other sub characters. And then you have all these different people, you have characters in it, and just like movies, they have sequels and characters change out. It's okay because you're writing the script. You get to choose
yeah.
what your character is. And remember, a lot of us forget that we are the main character in our life, and what we do is allow circumstances and people to make decisions for us and tell us who it is we're going to be in our movie. This is my movie. So, and I'm writing the script. So, if I want to be Princess Tiana for the next 2 years, that's who I'm going to show up as. And if you don't want to be in this movie, someone else could be in here. I can bring another character in to be my sidekick
You
or whoever. This is just life is but a dream. It's a play, and we make it
you
up
know,
every day.
you are speaking to my core. I just
Yeah.
absolutely love it. One of the things I was gonna talk about was, if you think that you choose your own path or if your path is chosen for you.
Ooh, that's
Y-
good. That's a good
Yeah,
question. My God. Partially now I choose my path. And also I think it was chosen for me. It's a weird combination. I feel like we come, this is just my belief system. Before we got here, I feel like our path was already written for us. And then we get here and we don't remember our path because you're born into a family. They believe what they believe, and you don't choose that. Like, no one chooses to be born into an abusive family. I didn't choose to be in my family necessarily, the religious background or every, you don't choose that
right,
innately. You're just born into it. And I think then you have to also think about the world and all the problems within it. And that's when it becomes chosen for you, especially as a child. That's why I always try to remind children, like, it's okay. Like, this world innately was created for you now. You're doing whatever your mom or dad is telling you to do. And
right.
then you have those years between like 18, when you get 18 and up, where you kind of can create it on your own. You carve out your own path. But I feel like our God-given purpose is given to us before we even hit the earth, and it's our job to remember what that is amidst all the chaos that we experience. And I feel like once we, as for me, the older I get, the more I see that I have it's power in my tongue and my energy. And I just feel like I am here to be a light and to show people that they can do it. Like, I'm
Mm,
just like everybody I walk past. I'm no different from you. I
mm.
go to work, I come home, I have children, but so many people tell me I'm an inspiration to them. And it's like you can be an inspiration to someone too if you
Oh,
just walk in your light, and then talk about it and tell other people to do it. I feel like that is my purpose now. So I feel like in some cases your path is chosen, and where it's like by the higher power. I feel like the higher power kind of knows what they have you here for. And then if you allow the world to, like, if you don't think for yourself, then your path is chosen for you. Like, if I allow my environment to dictate who I am, if I allow my past and my home environment to define me, then my path is not really chosen for me. My path now is attached to whatever people think I'm supposed to be. Like, let's say I was a bully in school and I did a bad thing. Let's just use that. Let's say at 16 years old, a young boy stole some candy from the store and he went to a detention center. He can allow that to be his story for the rest of his life and it's chosen
mm,
for him.
yeah,
Or he can flip the switch and say, that was something I did at 12 or 16 and I'm carving a new path. So it depends on, to me, your mindset, whether your
yeah,
path is chosen for you or if you choose it yourself.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
really good because,
Mhm.
there were so many negative things that happened to me. But when I reached a certain point, and, I allowed those negative, abusive things that happened to me in my past as a child growing up to affect me into my adulthood. And what ended up happening was it was just this cycle where I
Yeah.
kept putting myself into the same situations, creating the same feelings within
Hmm.
myself. And finally, I woke up one day after, I was living in an apartment by myself at this time because of all these things that had happened. And I said, you know what? I am sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Let's go.
And I turned it into a master's degree in helping people.
Look at
And,
that.
I got more out of helping people than I ever did trying to get help for myself.
That's major. That's, to me, is what the masses need to hear. In helping people, you help you. Like the affirmations that I say on stage, I'm saying them to me. I tell people all the time, I'm talking to me first, because every time you help someone, you're helping yourself. Every time you speak light into someone, you're speaking light into you because you hear your voice first, right?
Right.
So giving is always going to be the way you receive. And in helping other people, you also realize that there are people out here who went through far more than what you went through, or going through far more than
Yes.
what you're going through. And it'll
Yeah.
help you see the light in your own situation.
Right.
So,
And
yeah.
and when I held hands with some women that had been raped or some little
Hmm.
girls that had been molested when they were in the hospital and things like that, it was like being able to be stripped down and being
Hmm.
able to connect with that pain with somebody else. And, it just really, I think it's healing for both individuals when
Yeah.
something like that happens. And that takes me back to the Olivia Benson or the Mariska
Yeah.
Hargitay coming back and what she has fueled into that show and what she's gone through in her life 30 years ago, by the way. And that's another thing is being able to acknowledge your pain because so many times we and then when we go to acknowledge it, there are people who want to shut us up or say, you aren't over that yet.
My
That
God.
happened so many years ago. Why are you still hanging on to that? And it's like, I'm just trying to be real here. And, you're trying to rob me of that. And we just get stuck. And so it's being able
Yeah.
to just be authentic and be able to connect. And when we are willing to talk about it or able to talk about it, that we have that freely to be able to do. It's so
Yeah,
important to move
it's
on.
very important. And you being with the victims and being a victim yourself, you can see that you're not alone. A lot of time, especially as children, you feel like this is happening to me and no one else. Why is this
Yeah.
happening to me? And
Yeah.
you realize that it didn't only just happen to you. A lot of people have experienced that the same thing, and it's a odd type of I don't know what the feeling to call it. When you meet somebody who went through what you went through, it takes the burden of that isolation you put yourself through. Like, oh, this just happened to me, so I am defiled. No, this didn't just happen to you; it happened to her too. And now I have somebody who relates to the story that I'm able to tell. Because sometimes we are trying to share our journey and our pain with people who don't care. And that is the problem. We opened our mouth, even your gifts.
Yeah.
Sometimes we are trying to share big news with people who don't want to see us win. So those aren't the spaces for you. You go in the spaces where someone is welcoming you at in totality, your pain, your joy, all of it,
Right.
And a lot of times um and that could be the pain addiction. A lot of us are addicted to pain. That's why we can go through these cycles. It's cycles because it's what we know. It's what we've been used to is being hurt. So that's why you keep meeting the same stranger, is what I like to call it. You keep meeting the same person just in a different body. The same person in a different body, and it's a lot of it is because we're kind of comfortable with the pain after a while because this is what we know. It's
Right.
easy. I can figure this out. I know what this looked like. I know how this feels. I know exactly what this is. And that's why we get in these cycles of pain with so many different people with different faces. It could be businesses, jobs, relationships. It's the same feelings. It's because we're innately comfortable with it. And we don't
Right.
see it as that. And then it's like the unknown is scary. When we go out and say, hey, I'm tired of this, you're going into a world that you don't understand because all you
Right.
understood was pain.
Right. And
And then you
so
got to learn
then
how to love. Yeah,
when
it's
I
crazy.
felt when I felt myself getting closer to success or healthy connection, I would
Hmm.
sabotage, you
Yes, I
know?
was just going to say that. Self
I would
sabotage creep in. I've
I
been
would
through that a lot. So the one
and
thing I did go through, sorry to cut you off, go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, you go.
The one thing I did experience was as a child was when my father and my mother split. And what I got
Mm,
from that, and my father would take me with him to cheat on my mother. Now at the time, I didn't know that it affected me, but until I
okay.
started having relationships of my own. So what I thought of men when I first started dating is that this is what they do. And when as a girl, I
Mm.
was a daddy's girl, so he would have told me the sky was green. That's the color I would have told the world the sky was. So
Yeah,
that's and then I realized as an adult, oh, I'm dating my father because this is what I know a man to be. So I found myself in all of these basically tragic relationships because it was what I was used to, is what I knew. This is what I've experienced. So I thought that this is what relationships were supposed to be until I was introduced to men who weren't like that. So when I got into a relationship that was love, I self sabotaged it because I didn't know what to do in that space. Even though I kept saying I
right,
deserve love, I want love, I did not know what to do with it.
right.
And it was a wild experience for me. And that's when I realized, like, okay, maybe I do have like trauma behind this and I need to deal
Right.
with it and I have to go to therapy because I'm just going to continue to date my father and think that it's okay and be hurt by men when it's and not understand how to receive true love. This wasn't okay, Charde. This what happened to you, you being around and basically lying to your mother um, for your father. That wasn't okay. So
Mm.
I had to see like that wasn't okay. And it's not okay that I'm dating him continuously, just dating him. It's not okay. It is not okay to self sabotage actual love and care. So let's figure out how to love yourself whole, know that you deserve a real love. I didn't think I deserved it, to be honest. I thought that I should get the type of love relationship my mom had.
Now, did you blame yourself for keeping family secrets like that?
Oh,
Or
yeah,
because I blamed
I
myself.
did. A lot of my shame came from that. And I eventually had a conversation with my mother, and she was just like, you were a child. I was like 10 years old, 9 and
Right,
10 when they left. And I was like, Mom, I'm sorry. I think I was like 18. And like, I knew dad was cheating on you and he was manipulating me as a child. So, but
right.
for me, I just felt like, oh, I just basically messed my mother over. I wasn't being a good daughter because I knew that this was happening and I could have told her. But yeah, I carried a lot of shame and guilt behind that. And I didn't realize until I was older that I had trauma behind that. Even seeing my father cheat and being over these women's house, and I didn't realize that it it was traumatic for me. I just thought it
Sure.
was life until I
Right.
started dating, and then it hit me like, oh, I have like daddy issues, and I have to fix this,
Mm.
or I'm gonna keep dating the same man over and over
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my dad died.
Mhm.
So, and he was my adopted dad.
Mhm.
So, and it's really mixed, the feelings I have about my biological dad.
Mhm.
I actually got to connect with my siblings, which I've never talked about this on the podcast before, which is really interesting. But
Mhm.
I have been able to connect with my biological siblings on my dad's side. So,
Nice.
and it was actually kind of a good connection, but I did find out that I was conceived in rape. And I did find out that he wasn't a good man. I really did had I had been told this through my biological mom's side, because
Mhm.
she didn't even want me at her death, because
Mhm.
I was a memory. I was a bad memory.
Yeah.
And so when you're told that you're nothing but a rape, you
My
know, it
goodness.
it really sticks with you for years. And
Yeah.
after my dad had died, I went and I actually did have a relationship that was very small with my biological mom. And
Mhm.
I initially had thought that my dad was somebody else, later to find out, no, it was this person over here. So, that was a little confusing. So
Yeah.
then, I did the genetics, the DNA test or whatever. And then I did end up finding some of these people that were on my biological father's side. And he wasn't a good man. He was an awful man, actually. But That's another whole layer to this, is not owning who our parents are, or
Come on.
what they did. And we're not them.
We're not.
And that's another whole part of rewriting our story and not letting others define us.
It really is. I do affirmations with my children, and one of them is, I am not my parents.
Right.
Because it takes us a while to separate ourselves from that. And especially with your story, um, oh my God, you were conceived in such, I don't even know the word for it. Um, but look at the light that you are, you know, the
Well,
light that came from them.
I was
Just
meant to be here. And
yes, the light that came from, like you say, my father was not a good man. And you were a visible representation of what your mother went through, so she couldn't properly be there for you. But
right.
yet, look at the light you are to so many children, people, and women, because you could have been so many, you could have just been them, you know?
Well, when they had said to me things like, nobody graduates from high school, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody goes to college, and, that kind of stuff. And I was just like, I had to remind myself over and over that I matter and that I am worth something. And I had to internalize that and remind myself that don't have to get that from somebody else.
Yes, that was me. I went through that too. That outside validation. And that's why I say that so much. I tell you guys so much when I'm on stage, stop looking outside of yourself for validation. When in truth, I'm reminding that to me. I've done that so much. Being dark, I was always heavy my whole life. So I always convinced myself that I was too fat to be on stage because, like, I don't have the look. Yeah, you can sing, but you don't sound like this. So I had to, like, I don't have to have praise from you to do what I need to do. I don't. I could just do it for me. And that's okay. And who's supposed to hear my voice? They will. And that's,
Right.
yeah, I had to keep telling myself that. It took me years to stop looking for outside approval to just be who I am.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I have to constantly talk differently to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's catching myself and saying, and it's getting your mind, your thoughts to go. And I always call it thought stopping, where, it's instantly going to go in this way. It's just instantly going to take me on a path of no good. And
Man.
so I got to stop it instantly and make it go a different path. And
Yeah.
that's not always an instant. It doesn't want to go that natural path of good.
Mm-mm.
so,
No.
in order for us to carve a new path in our brain, to think of a different way of getting us through to the other side,
Yeah.
we have to carve a new path in our brain, and it takes effort. Our brain actually has to take effort to make it think a different way.
Yeah, because we're like motherboards, computer systems. Like you have to, just like you, we got to remove viruses, which is the old thought patterns. We have to download new ones, and it takes a
Yeah,
while to get used to. Like with my iPhone, we get a new iOS every now and then. I have to learn this new way my phone works. You have to rewire your mind, and reprogramming your subconscious mind is not easy because, like, after you do something for a year, it becomes a part of who you are. Your brain innately just, it's on flow now.
right.
Okay, ooh, we see this thought coming, so this is how we feel when this thought comes, and then you're
Yeah,
going racing like an engine. Like, this is how this goes. I
right.
like that thought stop. I have to use that. I like that a
Oh
lot.
yeah, I use it
I
all the
like
time,
that.
and I don't know where I got it from. I feel like I created it. I don't know if
Yeah,
I
I
did,
like
but
that.
anyway, but all the time I don't like I don't want anybody else to define me. I don't want my past to define me. I don't want my abuse to define me. I need to talk differently to myself and be kind to myself. And I always tell myself, one of my favorite books is The Velveteen Rabbit. And, it's that mentality of knowing, yeah, um, I've been through it. I'm rubbed raw like the Velveteen Rabbit, but, that's where we come alive, and that's where the love really is, and that's where the
Yes.
connection really is, and that's where the growth is. So,
Yeah.
you know
Everything grows in the dark. Like if you plant a seed, it's struggling to push through dark dirt for a long time before you see a bud. Then that bud pushes through until you see that flower. We're no different from that seed. It takes time, you know.
right. Well,
It takes struggle.
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's it. I said it takes struggle. I'm done. Go ahead.
Also, I read in the article, the Mariska Hargitay article, is that trauma fractures our mind and our memory. So, when you're painting, because one of the other things that you do is that you paint on stage
Yeah.
when there's performers, there's music going on stage, and you're painting. And now tell me if I'm wrong that there was a drummer for Gladys Knight who you performed with. He was performing and you were painting recently. I just bet that when you're doing that, that just adds a whole different layer of healing to put your life out there on a canvas while music and there's an audience, people are watching. I mean, that must just be beautiful.
It is. So, and you're right. Elijah Gilmore, he drummed for Gladys Knight for years. He has a monthly show called Afro Beats where he drums over Afro Beats, and he invited me to live paint while he was doing so. And art is therapy for me. I found art through
Mhm.
therapy in 2000, late 2016. Um, I needed therapy. I was working on a dementia unit, and then I lived with my grandmother
Oh,
who was demented, and it was driving me
okay.
crazy. And I said I need
Okay.
to go to therapy. And I didn't want to. At that point, I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna sit on somebody's couch. So I found art therapy, and
Yeah.
then I realized I was good at it, and it really art art basically saved my life, just to put it that way. And it's where I find solace. It's where I can still my mind, and it's
Okay.
something powerful when you can just no matter how chaotic everything is around me, I'm focused on this painting. So he could be playing the drums, people are dancing, the
Okay.
music is going. My focus is on this piece. So it's taught me how to still myself in the midst of chaos. That's what live painting has taught me.
What do you paint? What are some of the things that you
That's one look.
Oh, is it behind you?
I paint a lot. It's all over. But that's
Okay.
can we see it?
Okay.
That's one. Oop, this I don't know how to move my camera. There it is. Um so I just paint. I could do faces. Landscaping is my favorite. I've painted for Cleveland Public Theater before. I've painted a few murals. I've painted a bus. Um but acrylic is it's got to be colorful. I don't know. I know that I like colors. I just paint, and whatever happens happens. I guess it's based upon feeling. Usually I'll turn some music on, or I'll have like a reference sometimes, and I'll just paint from there. But painting is my solitude. That's how it started, and then I started to post, and people liked it, so I started selling them. But the intention behind me painting was therapy, to calm my mind and
Mhm.
give me something of my own to retreat to.
If
Mhm.
photography did that for me, I have actually a photography website, and, you know, everything has been a stepping stone to get me to where I am, and I
Yes.
think that back where when I didn't really have a voice, I
Mhm.
used writing. I wrote all the time, even to communicate with people. It was weird. I would give people notes.
Notes.
Yeah, I would get, and they probably, I was an adult and I'm giving you a note. Why can't you just say this to me? So, but I would do that because I wasn't really able to eloquently say what I needed to
Mhm.
say. And then it went to my photography where I was constantly taking pictures, and my website uh, for my uh for my photography is basically seeing the lens, looking through the lens of somebody autistic. It's called Everything Spectrum or something like
Oh, I
that,
love that.
where um and then I just moved from that to now I do speak to the, everything just got me to where I am to have me be able to use my voice again.
Yeah, you took one
So,
step at a time.
yeah,
That's
and
better,
it's just such a growing process. And when I see you up there on stage, you aren't done. This is
yeah.
just some stepping stones to where you're going because I know that there's a lot more planned for you.
Oh, thank you. And I'm at a point to where I'm knowing it too, to be honest. Especially these last few months of my life. I've gotten so many opportunities, and I realized what I had was imposter syndrome. Like as if I was just some
Yes.
imposter standing up here, not actually. I'm doing this and I'm good at doing it, and it's okay. And for some reason, I just couldn't believe. And when people would usually say, "Hey, you did a good job," and I'm like, "Oh," I would brush it off because I felt like an imposter just playing a role. And now I'm finally at a point to where I can feel it. Like I know that there's more for me because basically what you just described for you has literally helped happen to me. I found art first through therapy. The art led me to opening a gallery. That led me to meeting musicians. I met Mikey. I joined a band. I created my own band, and now I'm going to go on tour. And so I found my voice. I didn't, when it comes to art, prior to 2016, I never doodled, sketched, painted anything.
Oh my gosh.
So that's why I tell people you have to try the things because you have no idea what you're capable of. You don't. You have no idea.
Do you have a gallery now or
I
was it
don't. It's
okay.
gone. Yeah, it was called the Underground Cleve. It was on the east side of Cleveland. And I took the risks. This lady walked
You
up
know,
to me and go ahead.
no, I was just going to say you say yes when the doors are opened.
That's basically what I was gonna say. So yeah, that's it. I just said yes when the door was open for me. I said okay, and that's literally the trajectory of my life. That's the last 5 years of my life has been what you just said.
Just showing up.
That's
Showing
it.
up.
That's literally. And people ask me, "How do you do that?" I'm like, that's
Y-
literally what you just said explains my whole life. And I'm just being myself. So I try to tell people all the time, I don't care how talented you are. You could be the best singer, best artist, best photographer, best speaker. How you make people feel, how they feel about you, people buy into you. That's what I learned. All this
Mhm.
time I've innately been
Yeah.
selling myself. So at this point I know that it's my energy and who I am and the fact that I was badass enough to be vulnerable. That's what people are coming to see. So I could
Yeah.
probably be singing about the ABCs at this point, and people will come and say, "You know what? You did a good job, and you gave." Because it's the energy I'm giving. I'm purely walking in love. I want to connect to everyone. Pure. That's really what I want. I'm not trying to put on the best show of the year,
Yeah.
and not one point in my mind am I thinking about, oh, are they going to buy something from it? Just never crossed my mind. I'm just there to me to connect with you. And that is what people come to see me for. And I try to tell people that when they say, well, I'm not, how do you do what you do? And I've been doing this for years. And I'm like, I really just think it's just who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're finally reached what you were supposed to be doing.
Yeah. I
And
feel
we're
it.
we're all on a mission. We're all on our way to get there, and some of us have to take some extra twists and turns to get where we're
Man.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
But we reach it. We reach it, whether
Yeah.
it's 30 or 40 or 80 or whatever.
That's true.
We reach our purpose, and it's never too late. So,
Yeah, that's a lesson I learned too. Cause I would say that a lot too. Like I'm 37. I'm like, who do you know that starts a music career at 34
mm,
and do anything? I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna be singing around the bars, and then in the last 4 years, I've traveled singing and done all these things, and I'm about to be 38, so it's
Right.
never too late to do the things. So anybody out there listen to this, if it's on your heart and mind, get up and do that, because this is not a rehearsal. We get one life, and at 40,
Yeah,
almost
you
40,
said
I
it.
yeah, I have about 40 good summers. I think once I started looking at life like this, I started to live. I have 40 good summers in me. I'll be almost 80 years old. And I say good because I can live to 90 something, but will I have the same activities of my limbs? No.
Right,
So
right.
I'm going to take, and as you can see, it's almost summer again. So these years are not waiting on us. I have 40 good summers left in me. I am going to do everything that's on my heart to do, and that's just it. We have to live while we're here. A lot of us aren't living because we refuse to let go of the shame and the pain and all of that. Just live. If you're not hurting anyone and you're lifting people up along the way, do all the things. Do all the things, because we only get one shot at this. Just do it all and
Yeah.
have fun and smile more and give less, give yourself like 72 hours to feel upset and move on,
Well,
because what we focus on grows. People, go ahead.
I can't tell you how many times, like, I spill something and it, like, just starts this really big domino effect, or I just,
Hmm.
you know, made this really awesome thing and then, it's completely ruined. And
Hmm.
I just say, that's exactly what was supposed to happen.
There
And,
it is.
okay. And, I went from my childhood to having my kids when they were 30. I adopted my two kids.
Hmm.
Um, and so I did that right when I was getting started to start my retired life, or I'm not
Hmm.
retired. I'm not the retired age, but I meant, grown kids, going to start my
No, I
adult
get it.
life
Yeah.
without kids.
Hmm.
Um, get the phone call from Children's Services. You got to take these three babies now. And they were 2 months, 18 months, and a nonverbal 3-year-old who had DeGeorge syndrome. And, it didn't, it was a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I dropped everything and I just went and I got them.
Look at that.
And I could, where some of my friends are doing Vegas and they're doing this and they're doing this, and I'm going and I'm planning kid vacations, or, you
Hmm.
know, I'm taking them to New York. And I decided when I got them that we are going to experience life together. I'm not going to sit here as this grandma sitting here going, woe is me. And we are going to have fun. And we just went to New York and we went to Tennessee, and everything that we're doing, I'm experiencing through them and with them. And I'm just having an absolute blast. And that's the way, I'm just like, hey, let's go to McDonald's Playland. Let's do this. And,
I love it.
I'm just saying, we have to embrace what's been given us. And that's where we get to take it and make it our own path. Things
Come on.
happen, things happen, but then we can take it in the direction that we want. So,
Yes. I love that. I love that for you and the babies, because what you're doing is making your inner child so happy. Did you experience New York as a child? Did you experience
no,
going out with the playland? So every time you take those babies to those places and you're having a good time, it's the little girl in you that's having a good time, and you're actually giving those babies everything that you didn't receive, and you're giving it to the baby in you first. So when you said I help myself when I'm giving to people, that's exactly what you're doing with those babies. You're speaking to the little girl in you who wanted to go on trips, who wanted to spend time at play yards, who wanted to do all of those things.
yeah.
You're doing that for her through those children. That's amazing.
Yeah, I call it my third childhood. So that's really funny that
Yeah.
you're saying that. And fortunately, I have the body that allows me to be able to continue to do these things probably for the next 20, 30 years. And
Yeah.
because I'm still in my 50s. So, I mean, I have a lot of
You got
years.
time. Yeah.
I do. I still have a lot of time left here. So, and my kids give me so much. And that's what we talked about, was being able to pour yourself into something and getting something so much back. And
Hmm.
I really do. And the healing is there. And it also gave me a different perspective by bringing them in, and they challenged me to the point where I just want to pull my hair out. So
Yeah.
there is that. But what I learned was my mom, my adopted mom, when she rid put my sister in the system because she was bad, or
Hmm.
different things like that. There are no excuses. There was no excuse in her situation. I can't say for anybody, but hey, you know what? Kids have bad moments, but there
Listen,
aren't bad kids.
there it
And
is.
we don't treat somebody as and discard of them because they did bad things. And what I've learned with my son, who is acting out and acting out, he is not a bad kid. He calls himself bad because that's how a teacher
Yeah.
made him feel, but he's not bad. And I'm just letting him know, no, you are a good kid. You made a bad decision, but
There
we
it
all
is.
do. We all do. But we are all specially made. We are purposefully made. We all have a mission,
Yep.
and we all are love, and we can all have love go through us to other people.
Oh, I
So,
love that. We are our love and we can all have love go through us to other people. I love
yeah.
that.
Hey, do you want to sing us out? Because
Oh,
it
so let me see. What I would instead of singing,
okay.
I would like to do a little affirmation, if that's okay, if you would do it with me. And
Absolutely.
hopefully, when they watch or listen to the podcast, they can do it with us. So I'm going to encourage you to place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I am loved.
I am loved.
I am worthy.
I am worthy.
I am safe.
I am safe.
I am more than enough.
I am more than enough
Every day,
every day,
in every way,
in every way.
I am better
I am better
and better.
and better.
Now, the only thing you have to do is believe all of that and take that with you, especially when it's hard, and say it to yourself every day when you look in the mirror, especially when you got the crust in your eyes and you're looking the worst of the worst. Remind yourself that you are worthy and beautiful. Before anyone else say anything to you, you tell yourself, you affirm yourself, and it starts your day with that. It makes it so much better. That's what I want to leave to everyone here today.
Ah, amen is all I got to say to that. There was a time I wouldn't have been able to say those words after you said them.
Yeah,
So, it's and I might have been able to eventually say it but not feel it. But
yeah,
I felt it when you
I
said it.
love it. And I
So,
was there too. I experienced that phase of my life where I could not affirm myself and I couldn't say, I love you, Charde. I broke down in tears just saying that to
Mhm.
myself. So it takes practice.
And sometimes you gotta fake it till you make it, you
There
know?
it is. There it is. That's it. And then eventually it becomes real.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Charde, or Love,
Your love.
or however you want to be. Yeah, I know you as both, but some people know
Yeah.
you as Love and some people know you as Charde. So, but both versions of you are just beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. And you are too. So thank you for
Oh,
shining your light and having this platform where we can just speak candidly about who we are.
yes. All right. Well, I'm going to end our podcast here. And I just thank you so much, Charde, for being on with Tina and Ann, Real Talk with Tina and Ann. I just so appreciate you and your message. And, we might be able to do this again sometime, but
Yes. Anytime, anytime.
And
And as always, I love you. I love you so much.
I love you too, and, I'm gonna come out and see you guys again and again and again because
Yeah.
you minister to my soul when I see you sing. And not just everybody in the band, but, when you're up there and you sing, it really does minister. So, just like you said, believe in yourself because
Thank you.
I believe in you. S
Thank you.
all right. So, uh, we're gonna stop here for Real Talk with Tina and Ann, but we will see you next time.
Bye bye.